This is Gary by the chalkboard. My guest today is Dawn Shapansky. Dawn lives in Washington State. She is a wife and a mother. She has taught school for 25 years, and teaching is very important to her. She doesn't just teach subjects, but she encourages her students to be confident, kind, and think about their values. Dawn is an aspiring musician and a published author. And today we're going to share how she became a published author, which is a very, very inspiring story. So Dawn, thank you so much for coming on my show today.
No problem.
Yeah. Well, you and I had a fascinating upbringing because we both grew up in Ketchikan, Alaska, which to me is still one of the most beautiful places on earth. We were in junior high and high school together. We were in band. We graduated in the same class. So shout out to class of 88.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So now, were you born in Ketchikan? How long did you
I
live there?
I was born in Ketchikan General Hospital. Same in January 26th. I have to say that because it's Eddie Van Halen's birthday, and I'm sad that he's gone. But yes, I
Nice.
was born and raised there.
I was born on January 31st. So we were very, very close together. Nice. Yeah. What was that like for you growing up in such a wonderful place?
You know, it's funny. I there's some things that I loved about it from day one, and there's things that I didn't appreciate until I left. I loved everything about the freedom of growing up there. Nobody was worried. We had a lot of freedom. I don't remember, like, I would just leave. I don't think I'd see my mom until she called me for dinner. So that was really nice, and that knowing everybody was really great. Um, and the traveling, if you're in sports or you were in music, you get to not just get on a bus and go do a concert or get on a bus and go to a basketball game. You get to fly and stay with other people, and I think that that's always been something that's really cool to me. And then you learn sportsmanship and all that because you're staying with somebody you might have beat or lost to. The things I didn't notice until later that I really appreciated is the view, the water. I grew up on the ocean, and I don't think I looked out the window much as a kid, but now I just go up there and just stare out my parents' window. Um, that's something I didn't appreciate until later, but
Yeah, I get you. I live in West Texas, and just the thought of the ocean just brings back wonderful memories for me because there's nothing like that here.
well, we have it, but it's just a little bit more expensive than I'm willing to spend or couldn't spend right now.
Yeah. Up there, everyone's on the ocean.
Yeah, I mean, I could walk there in minutes, but I can't see it from home.
Yeah. One of my really good memories from growing up there is eighth grade because something very unique about Ketchikan is the entire eighth grade class goes on a survival trip to an island. They break up the class, they go to different islands, and we had to survive for 3 days. We got a piece of plastic to make a tent. We had to eat food off the beach that we gathered. Do you
And like a coffee can, I think we had to fit things in like a little coffee can we could bring or something. I don't know.
Yes, and depending on which group you went in, you had to survive 1, 2, or all 3 days out of that 1 pound coffee can.
Hmm.
Yeah. And if we had stayed another week or two, I think several people would have starved because they didn't want to eat anything off the beach.
I would have been one of those people.
It was tough, but it was fun too. It was a good experience for everyone
I'll never
to
forget it.
be able to practice some survival techniques if you ever got stranded. It's necessary to know some of that up there. So
Yeah.
high school, what was high school like for you? What did you enjoy about high school?
Um, I think for me, most of my high school was centered around swimming. I trained before school, after school. I was on the high school team, but also the private Ketchikan Killer Whales. And so a lot of my high school was traveling. And so a lot of weekends I missed. It pains me. I missed homecoming because I was training in Florida. I missed the senior carnival that I'd went to my whole life. It was during
Oh,
state swimming. I couldn't even be a part of that. So yeah, but so a lot of it centered around that, and then just activities. Like I wanted to do everything. I think to just because I enjoyed it and to travel. I mean, it's people don't understand down here. that the athletes were also in debate and band, and like you did everything because that there wasn't a lot of other things, I guess, to do. So for me, it was that. And I mean, I had fun and I was pretty good. Swimming kept me pretty busy. I didn't get in a lot of trouble. Uh, so that was really, really good. And living on a small island where a lot of parents had scanners kept me kind of toeing the line a little bit.
Yes, yes. If we ever got stopped, it was on the scanner. Everyone had scanners, police scanners, and knew immediately. And the word spread really fast. So
Yes,
anything that happened on the island, everybody knew it.
it's true. I do say, because I teach children and my husband teaches high school, and one big difference that I have to explain to a lot of people is the difference between, and I don't know what it is in Texas, but minor in possession and minor consuming. Like in Alaska, you could be at a party and as long as you weren't partaking, you were fine. But here, if you were at a party and even if you weren't partaking, it would be in possession and you would be in trouble for that. So that's a big difference. I found out when I went to college and told the police officer. he informed me that the rules weren't the same as Alaska. So that's how
You're,
I learned.
you're in a different state now. Yeah, different rules. I think it's the same down here. I don't know.
Yes.
So, wow. So you've taught school now for 25 years.
Yes.
And what grade do you teach now?
I teach sixth grade. And I think I've actually now taught more sixth grade, or about half and half. Eighth grade is where I started. And I really liked it because they're at a fork in a road. And because I felt like you could be sarcastic with them. And I had such a great eighth grade year that I just loved it. And when they told me I was going to teach sixth grade, I thought that I would make the students cry. And I said, please don't make me go to those poor little kids. I'm just going to make them cry because, it can be pretty harsh. The way I grew up, teachers were different. And so I did and ended up, they're awesome. And I'm a good fit there too. And I just love it. So,
Yeah, you said in some of our communication that you like to empower people. And so I know you like to empower your students, but
mhm.
how do you do that? How do you empower your students?
um, well, first, I think you just have to listen. I think a lot of people feel unlistened to. I guess I'm an English teacher. That's not really a word, um, but yeah, I think when you're young, everyone just puts you aside. So I try to listen and find something that they say that I could then say, go for it, or um, just tell them ways and strategies to get those things that they seem to want. So sometimes it's trying to figure out what they say and what that really means as far as empowering them to do something. One thing that I do, and as I think some kids think we live like in a coffin or something. And then in the morning we come out and then we go back and we don't have lives. And if we did, they're leave it to beaver, cleaver houses and white picket fences and perfect lives. And they feel like they can't talk. And I've taught at wealthy schools and impoverished schools. And I think that letting them know that you're not perfect and that you've had strife in your life, whether it be a parent, your parents were divorced or one went to prison or an alcoholic, or, you tell them things, then they tend to open up more. And that makes it a lot easier to empower them if they feel that they're not alone in the world and that good people can rise up out of bad situations.
Yeah, it's when you affirm someone's value, no matter what they're expressing or saying or exploring, it 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 enables them to thrive. And I have experiences like that in my past, just from a teacher, maybe saying one thing in one moment that just encouraged me in whatever I was doing. So I think what you're doing is fabulous.
Thank you.
So
It's
I
so
have to
important.
get one comment here because
Yeah.
you can't see it on the podcast, you can on the video, but in the background, you have a life-size cutout of Gene Simmons, lead singer of Kiss. Where did that come
Yes.
from?
Well, my students gave it to me. It was kind of a prank, I guess. They called me and said, "There's a new student starting in the fall, and they want to meet you before." And we told him you were really great, but he's kind of rowdy. And I'm like, "Oh yeah, sure, I'll go down there and meet him." Anyway, it was this big cardboard cutout of Gene Simmons. I have to say that I try to justify my love of the 70s, 80s, and And so when I play music, it always has to have a lesson or some way to tie it to school. And so, and sometimes it's a stretch, but with Gene, I always say like, hey, you could be totally cool and be smart. He speaks 5 languages and taught school in Brooklyn. Like, he's awesome. Or, like my pop dolls, I have like next to me, I have a Def Leppard pop dolls, and the drummer doesn't have an arm. It's like, they could have said, see ya, we need to make music and you can't. But he stuck with it. They stuck with him, got a special drum set. So I always try to like, or Joan Jett's mom said, you could do anything you want. Like, I always try to tie in. We do music a lot and I think kids like music. So that's a way to connect too.
Man, I love that. And I love it even more since it's 80s rock. Because
I am definitely stuck in the 80s. I mean, I do like grunge, don't get me wrong, but 80s is it.
yeah, when it really comes down to it and I have to listen to something that moves me, I will always default to 80s rock because there's just so much memory there growing up with that.
That's probably it. Music takes you back to, any song will take me back to a moment in time, and the 80s were a great time for me.
Have you explained to your class how much effort we had to go through to make our own tape of mixed music to listen to?
Yes, the Casey Kasem is like, is it going to end? Is it going to be a commercial? Pause, press record. Like, yes. The
Yes.
mixtape. We had a 80s themed dance here. Maybe I pressed forward a little bit, and then we had like walls that had tapes on that said mix, this mix. And so, yes, they don't know how lucky they are.
I know. It was such a chore, but it was so
Casey Kasem.
rewarding.
It
Yeah.
was, and it was personal. And I mean, you can do it now with, iTunes and all that, but it was just kind of cool. And I miss Casey Kasem. It was like the thing we looked forward to on Sundays.
Yes. I remember that too. And having radio was just an amazing thing back then.
And the first time we got MTV, when they actually like played videos, that was super cool. That was in middle school too.
Oh, that was amazing, wasn't it? When it first came up to Ketchikan on television, everybody was so excited. Yeah.
I remember the day that Michael Jackson's Thriller came out. I remember the day that yeah.
Yes. Yeah, that was totally different. And we had a wonderful childhood and our teen years growing up in Ketchikan. So let's get to some serious subjects here, because this is what I really want to talk about. And this is really what people want to hear about, is your experiences. So not too long ago, your mom passed away.
Yes.
How long was it? 2008? Mm-hmm. Okay. Did you have a good relationship with her?
Yes, very much. We spoke every single day since I left home in 1988, and that's before you got free long distance. So
yeah.
And we saw each other all the time, and yes, we were super close. I'm an only child, and yeah.
Okay. And your mom got cancer.
Mm-hmm.
And were you able to spend a lot of time with her during
Actually, I mean, no time is enough for me, so I probably would say no. It went pretty fast. I remember I was in Hawaii with my family and got a call, and she said she had cancer, and this was in July, and she was done. I mean, she passed away February, so it was less than a year. She spent a lot of that time in the hospital in both Ketchikan and Seattle. When I knew that it was close to the end, I cleaned out a room, and thank goodness my family was cool with it all, and put in a hospital bed, and she spent her last few weeks right there. She died in my arms.
I think that's awesome. My father passed away 5.5 years ago from cancer.
So
Same
sorry.
thing. I was there with him, holding his hand when he passed. And I am so thankful for that experience. And those 10 days I spent with him or so, it was one of the greatest honors of my life, because for the first time in my life, I could help my dad, because my entire life he had helped me, but I got to help him get dressed, get undressed, get in bed, eat, drink. And it was effortless for me, because I was so honored, and I just loved him that much that I was thankful for it. I was thankful to be able to spend that time with him.
I have to say, I didn't do that kind of thing because my dad was here staying with us, and I think my mom didn't want me to see her that way, sort of. So I didn't actually do that sort of care. Um, I mean, I just sat with her a lot and talked to her when she could do that. And bring in my daughter. But my daughter was 4 months old when she passed, which is another really sad thing because just wanted my mom to know her, kind of a thing. Um, but I will say one thing that I'm so grateful for. If anybody out in your podcast world, I don't even know what it's called because I've never done this. I would say I had no regrets as far as I wrote my mom cards, letters before she had cancer, constantly thanking her for being a great mom, thanking her for making me what I was, telling her how much I appreciate her sacrifice and everything. And so I will say that when she passed away, I knew 100% that she knew exactly what she meant to me. And I've been so grateful for that. Looking through those letters after she passed, like, whoa, I'm so glad she knew. Maybe that's selfish on my part, but I just, it's made so much difference not living with that.
No, that is so important because my mom still lives in Ketchikan, 3,000 miles away from me. I did get to see her in August, but we message almost every day. And I'm thankful for every one of those. And every time I get one, I'm just immediate to send it back, to encourage her, to tell her what I'm doing, to share my experiences of life. And she loves to hear every bit of it. And I love those moments and she loves them. But keeping that value going in a relationship is so important for your own heart.
And I try to tell my kids that, teach them that, both students and my own children. And my stepdad and I are this close, and we talk and see each other as much as possible.
That's good. Yeah, you mentioned that you've really grown from these experiences with your mom, and you've used those experiences to help others. How have you used those experiences to help other people?
Well, one thing I've learned about, especially about grief, is that everyone deals with it different. So one way is just people sometimes just need to talk. They don't want advice. I think I listened to one of your podcasts when you asked me to be here, and you were thanking somebody for asking, not telling you what to do, but just kind of saying, what do you feel like? What's in your heart? Kind of a thing. And I think that's super important. I think in our need to help people, we always want to fix it. I think some people, maybe women more, are these fix-its. They just want to fix everything. And sometimes that's not what the person needs. They just need to have you listen to them. And that is a big help, just processing. So that's one way. And then just talking about, let them talk about something that's bothering them. Um, and then trying to give them something else to focus on. Find, if you know that somebody likes cooking, talk about cooking. Maybe ask them to teach you. There's nothing, it never gets easier. And people tell you that. I don't think that that's true. But I think that we can be distracted, and that's really important.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm definitely in school. My custodian is
Oh, that's okay.
yeah.
That's okay.
He's
Hey, we
awesome.
have another guest. So one of the beautiful things about life is seeing how a difficult experience can produce something wonderfully unexpected and inspiring. So sometime after your mom passed away, you started writing.
Hmm.
How long afterwards did this begin?
That's a good question, and one that I'm not 100% sure on, but I think uh, about 2 years. I think I was kind of, no, I don't know that I was that productive, other than just trying to get, my own kids were very little and trying to get through teaching and not be sad all the time. So I would say about 2 years after I started putting things down on paper.
And what did you write about?
Well, when I started, I wanted to just talk about my mom because nobody knew her here. I mean, I guess I had a few friends, but in Ketchikan, everybody knows everybody, and everybody has memories of everybody's parents, whether it was just seeing them at a basketball game or hanging out at their house or the grocery store. And so for me, it was like I just wanted to talk about her because I like talking about her. I talk about her every day. What I don't talk about is how I feel about her sometimes to people. Like that's the more private stuff. But I'll say,
Mm.
oh, my mom did this or that or whatever. My mom loved to talk about her. So I wanted to get on paper some of the things that I really, memories I had or things that I really loved about her. And so I thought, well, no one's going to be like, oh, here's a book about Dawn's mom. Like, like what? And so I was like, okay. And I said, as I'm an English teacher, I thought, I'm going to write a book where there's going to be a character that has a cool mom. And then it ended up being, whoa, why can't her mom be gone? And then she's having to deal with, and then it became about making me feel better. Uh, and so it just sort of evolved from there. And then the English teacher part took over, and I thought, so many books now are so much graphic novels, which I'm not against graphic novels, but uh, I felt like vocabulary, things were being dumbed down for kids, and I just wanted to write something that I thought where the vocabulary was good and characters were making thoughtful, good choices. Sort of, so it kind of evolved from that.
Yeah. So early on, when you started that, were you intentionally writing a book? Did you think this is a story that's going to be published?
I didn't I wouldn't say there's two questions there. Yes, I thought it was I wanted to write a story that would be like a book, like I knew it was but I don't think I thought I was going to publish it because when I started, I don't think they even had it, or if they did, I didn't know about Amazon self-publishing. So that's a whole, that's a lot easier. Like I thank you for your kind words about being a published author, but I self-published. I mean, anyone can do that. But I guess it's true. You have to write something in which to be published. And I'm very proud of my work. Don't get me wrong. I tried to get it published the old fashioned way by writing a couple query letters, but life just got too busy and I just didn't follow through with it. Even though some very famous authors had been turned down, stories of numerous times or whatever, I just didn't have time because that wasn't my drive kind of a thing.
I did the same thing. I actually published a book and I self-published it on Amazon because that was the easiest way to go. And mine just started out because I was writing things down often and I thought I want to put these in one place so my children will have things dad wrote. And it just kind of developed into enough to publish a book. So I self-published it. And so anyone listening, self-publishing a book on Amazon is really not that difficult. You have to put in, most of the work is writing, and there's a lot of tutorials and help to get a book published. So if you're thinking about doing that, look into publishing on Amazon because you can publish a Kindle book completely free. And if you want to get it printed also, if you want to sell printed books, you have to get an ISBN number. And so when I did mine, it was $125, and that was all I spent to publish a book. It's a fantastic way to do it.
Yep.
So what's the title of your book?
It's called Shadow Self because there's a lot of reasons for that. I think that everybody has different sides to them. So I kind of was thinking about that. And then definitely the characters have different sides to them, things that everybody would see, and then things that they don't see, whether it's an internal struggle or other things that they don't see. So that's how it got the title. I actually struggled with that for the longest time because, like I said, I never really thought it was going to be published. For me, the hardest part was formatting it to self-publish and coming up with the title. I've definitely got my computer training at K-High in the computer programming class, and I am not tech savvy. And so I think that for me was harder than actually writing the book because that was fun.
Yeah, I spent more time on making sure the formatting was right or working on the formatting than I think I did writing too.
It was hours. I mean, I was just like, so finally I just said, I better just do this or I'm not going to do it. And the cover is a Amazon cover, but I'm already writing book 2, and I have a friend who is an artist and he doesn't think he's very good, and I think he's really good. So he's doing a cover for my second book, and I have to just say, Deer Mountain is in it because
Oh,
Deer Mountain plays a part in book 2. So, and for those of you that aren't from Ketchikan, that's a really cool place.
yeah. Yeah, for those of you who don't know, Deer Mountain is the prominent mountain right behind Ketchikan. Everybody there knows it. It's spectacular when it's clear weather and wonderful for pictures and hiking. And it's the monumental mountain in
I have pictures
Ketchikan.
all over my house that feature Deer Mountain, and even my classroom. I have the standard terry piles with the mountain, and then I have the other pictures from Ketchikan in my classroom as well.
Did you ever climb to the top?
You know, I did. I'm gonna just say I did, but I'm embarrassed to say I did not until I was 32 years old. Um, so that's embarrassing, like really embarrassing. I put a time capsule up there. I need to go up there and see if it's still buried.
Oh yeah, see if you can find it.
So I did it quite late. It was not as hard as I thought. There was still some snow on it in the summer, and there was a lot of mosquitoes.
Yes,
It
mosquitoes
was
and
beautiful.
Ketchikan. Mosquitoes and Ketchikan they go together.
I will say that my favorite place to hike, I did hike. I loved walking around Green Lake. That's where I'm from here. Excuse me, Ward Lake, and Perseverance. I loved going up there. And I was really sad one year when I heard that somebody like kind of cut and damaged the trail, but then they fixed it. But I did hike up that a lot as a kid and a teen.
And the trails they have up there are so well maintained now. Because when we were growing up, you had to wear boots and you're slogging through muskeg and mud and half the trail up there. Now those trails you can go miles back there and wear tennis shoes.
Mhm.
It's really, really spectacular.
Yeah.
Mm. You said that you, at your age, you think about being closer to death than birth.
It's true. So where that came from is because I'm a teacher, I taught a novel that there was like a fountain of youth. And when I started teaching it, I was like, I ain't drinking that water. I'd really associated with the younger people in the book. But as I got close, I was like, oh, I might drink that water now. Cause yeah, I'm 50, so if I live to be 100, I'm just there, but who knows?
Yeah. Does that make you live life differently or perhaps more dedicated to relationships, more vibrant?
I'd like to say yes, and I think sometimes, but I think I'm guilty of, just worrying about like getting to work on time, grading the papers. Did you do your homework? I mean, I want to be that way, and I think in some ways, yes. But then I don't know if that's just an excuse for my vices, like, oh, I'm going to go to more concerts now because you never know, and everyone I love is dying because they're all in their 70s. But no. So I'd like to say that it has, and I'm sure it has. I don't know that everyone is always cognizant of the things that motivate them, that do that. I definitely think about those things at times. We should do this as a family, or I just want to sit down on my kid's bed and talk to them instead of just saying, "Did you do your homework? Okay, get ready for tomorrow. Is your bag ready?" Like that kind of stuff. But um, definitely get stuck in the rat race and should focus more on that. But I think that's what's really important, that everybody needs to continue to remind yourself. Trying to better yourself isn't something you just decide to do one day and it's just going to happen.
Yeah, age is definitely one of those triggers that starts making you more aware of your mortality and that time is limited. And if you use that time well, it definitely benefits you as a human being.
I wish that I could calm down sometimes, but I definitely, when I get older, I think of, I can't pass away right now. My kids aren't out of school. I've got this, I've got that. I've got all these things I have to do, and so that gets in the way sometimes. But I see more and more now those moments where I'm like just really appreciating a view or appreciating coffee with a friend, or so I definitely think they're there, but I don't want to make myself look like, yeah, I'm so awesome. I just really think life and try to make the best of it every day. And I don't think that's true.
Yeah. Well, Dawn, I have with me our
Ah,
our
I
1988
have it in my classroom.
senior yearbook.
It's in my
And
cover.
and I want to read something out of this that you
Oh God.
said.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, on one of these pages in our yearbook,
Are
there
you
was
going to
this.
read what you said, by the way? No, I'm just kidding.
I'm not on this page.
Okay.
No, on this was published in the yearbook. This is not what you wrote. This was published. On this page, there was a statement given to students, the beginning of a statement that they were supposed to finish. And the statement was, being smart is, and here's what you said. Being smart is knowing what you have to do in relationship to how much time you have to do it.
It sounds more profound than I think I meant it at 18. I still like it. I think it still stands.
I think it more than stands, because just today I thought, I'm just going to go through my yearbooks to see what Dawn wrote to me, because we all signed each other's yearbooks and I knew you'd signed mine. So I'm kind of going through them going, oh, okay, next one. And then when I got,
what did I say?
It was, who wrote anything profound to each other in our yearbooks? It was all mostly superficial things. Hey, great knowing you. See you next year, or you're graduating, stuff like that. But for some reason, I turned to that page because it referenced it in the back by your name. And I saw that and it just moved me, because I thought, man, everything that you've done with your mother in this book, it really comes out to me in that statement about taking time for relationships. Everything you said today, take time to share with your mom every opportunity so that she knows that you value her, that you love her. That's what that said to me. Your heart back then was the same as it is now. It's just amplified today in a much greater way.
I hope that there was some of that going through my mind back then. Because I am like that today, and I think those things are so important. And I didn't back then as much, at least I wasn't cognizant, but I think that I probably had more to do with getting good grades and meeting deadlines. Because I didn't realize back then being smart to me meant education kind of a thing. And so I think it probably meant more of that. But I would say if I said that today, I would interpret it the way that you are interpreting it. I think there's another quote in there about sitting, like, don't, on the highway of life, don't just sit there, you'll get run over, or something like that too.
Yeah, I didn't see
That was
that
pretty
one.
profound.
I read some of the other ones on that page and I thought,
I think every section of the yearbook has that, like athletics or whatever, that was like the thing that year.
Yeah.
So I think you'll probably find some not so profound things. But
oh yeah, I'm not even going to mention what my senior quote was. It was terrible. I got it from Reader's Digest. That was all I could think of. I had no profound thoughts back then at all.
I think one thing that I've thought about as getting older is that I used to think about like what I needed to accomplish, what I needed to do. And I remember like growing up wanting to make my mom proud, like constantly, whether it was swimming or grades or whatever. And then when I got to be an adult in my 30s, out of college and got my job and everything, and then it was like, oh, I wonder if she's still proud of me. What am I doing to make her proud? Because it's very different as a child, the things that make your parents proud, as when you're an adult. And I thought, okay, well, so I started thinking about what kind of person I wanted to be and what's a good person, and all those kinds of things. And I thought, the people that I remember and the things I remember are when people make me feel good. Now, maybe that's being self-centered, like who doesn't like to feel good. So when someone's, I guess, being nice to me or making me feel special, whether it's smart, beautiful, talented, funny, whatever, you kind of puff up a little bit. And so kind of said, people remember how you make them feel. So I always tell my kids, like, make people feel good. That's what they're going to remember. And when they think of you, they want to think like, oh my gosh, they make me feel so good. Like, and so that is something that I try to do and try to have my kids do.
Yeah, we all struggle with that or go through periods of doubt in our life when we're trying to discover who I am. Who am I? And I look back at my life and the people who valued me the most, especially when I was going through difficulties, those are the people that I am the closest to now. Those are the people that I still value now. You mentioned that podcast I had with my friend named Miller Talbot. He was my friend 15 years ago when we first met, something like that. And that friendship has done nothing but grow, because when I was struggling, he just simply valued me as a human being. barely knew me. And when you value someone just because they're alive, man, it just does amazing things to them. For one moment to value someone and give them the respect that they need can change their whole life.
I think the worst thing is feeling invisible for kids. I think a lot of the problems, and I think, and part of that's like, I realized at my reunion when people are talking about high school and I hear people like, oh, they were mean to me or they were this. And I thought, you know, I don't know that I mean, I can't remember if I was, I apologize, but I don't think that I was really mean to people, but there's people I didn't talk to, whether they weren't swimmers and I was busy swimming, or they were this and I didn't take the time to necessarily talk to them. And so maybe they felt invisible. And so their interpretation is that that's mean. Does, if that makes any sense. Um, so I think that it's super important that people not feel invisible. And that's like what you're saying. Like, I don't care who you are. If you're on this planet, you're not invisible, and or nor should you be.
Yeah,
And
that's a
so we
great way
need
to put it.
little things. It makes such a huge difference. It doesn't have to be huge. It could be little. Um, and not to bring it back to my book, but um, you know, I guess I get royalties for it. I published it, right? And I don't, I think I've looked twice because my husband's asked me like, oh, have you sold any books? Have you, made any money or whatever? I always forget about that. Like, I wrote this, like, now one of the things I'm really glad that I published it for isn't about making money or anything like that. It's about it touches people. If it touches you, then that makes me feel good. Like, I have a coworker I didn't even know, and I feel shame on me that she lost her mom years ago, and she read it and she was like, I haven't read anything except for one other author that I can't remember now. I think she wrote the book Wild, that made me like, that touched me after my mom, made me feel good, that really captured death and the way you feel the loss and stuff. And maybe that was just for her. I'm not saying it's a great American novel. It is not at all. But, if I made one person think about her mom and think about, wow, other people felt the way I did, score, win. If one kid reads my book and says, I need to make the right choice and put my friend before me in a certain situation, great. Or just that they think they can do it. Like, you can write a book. I mean, anyone can. You just got to
Yeah.
believe in yourself. Although I'm still struggling with, you mentioned aspiring musician. Before COVID, my son and I, together, because of this whole, we want to utilize our time, started taking electric guitar lessons together. And then COVID hit and we kind of had a break on that. And so basically, I just play the opening to Def Leppard Photograph over and over and over again. So someday maybe you can have me back and I will play a riff of some 80s music.
Yeah, that'd be fantastic. Yeah, I've
So
got to put Gene Simmons a little closer to the camera then, and
yeah,
some of
I
your
think that
80s
uh
stuff.
yeah, I think that I do have a bucket list sort of, and I think I make it up as I go. I don't have a, I just, it's like, okay, I've done that. What else do I like? What else can I do? Like, when you do one thing, you just feel kind of empowered. And so back to the empowered thing, what I try to show my students, if they can do one thing, it's like, if you can do that, look, you can do this. And so I don't know.
So you mentioned you're writing a second book. Is it connected to
Mhm.
the first book?
It is. I don't know how many books it'll take to get through this story. At least three. And then I have another book that I might interrupt with, that I would like to write sort of about my parents' experience, my mom and my stepdad. I really want to write a book about them. So,
Yeah. You mentioned that your mom and your stepdad. When your mom married your stepdad, he was of a different race, and that caused some issues with
yes,
some of your family.
my parents, so I call my stepdad, I say my parents, whatever, my mom, they met at Maine school. My stepdad is Japanese. He was actually born in an internment camp.
Hmm.
His family owned, if you're from Ketchikan, there's the New York Hotel, Ohashi's, Jim's Cafe, and then Tatsuda's, which they just got rid of. It's kind of the Japanese row, I guess, by Crick Street. And so his parents owned Jim's Cafe, and they all, when World War II hit, they all had to go to camps, and different ones, because his dad was a business owner. So He moved back. I think the war ended. He was about a year old. And then they grew up together. And in high school, they dated. And if my mom was caught, I guess, I hate that word, with him, she would be put on restriction, not get the car. So they would sneak. And that wasn't super fun, I'm sure. And then he went to Vietnam and she went to college. And then they ended up, she married the tall white guy. That's why I don't look anything Japanese for the people who can see this. um, because she married the tall white guy that her parents liked, and that just didn't work. And so then they were married for a few years, and then my mom and stepdad dated um, since I was a year old, but they didn't get married until I was a senior in high school because of all the flack that they'd get from my grandparents.
Hmm.
So he's awesome. He's amazing.
That's a fantastic story.
I know it's gonna be it's yeah. And racism and all that, that is a unfortunately it's timely, still today. Like you think it would just be gone and a non-issue, but it isn't. So I grew up with that and I would like to help people if I could.
Yeah, we grew up with pieces of that with different races in Ketchikan.
Hmm.
And when I moved to Texas, got different races there. And it was after I was in my 20s before I ever went to a family reunion where my father's from in rural Mississippi.
Oh wow.
And I thought I'd stepped into a movie. I could not believe how much racism was present there. I had never lived among Black people. I think I saw 3 my whole life in Ketchikan. So I had no experience with it. Here I am suddenly at a family reunion where every truck has a Confederate flag on it, literally. And it was just deeply racist. And here's all my extended family racist and talking about Black people in a way that I thought was just on television. And it was just this eye-opening experience going, people are really like this. They're actually really like this. I didn't know.
Yeah. It saddens me because I grew up. I just don't get it. I just don't get it. Because in my mind, there was the Japanese man was like the best dad ever, and he didn't even have to be. And still, like my mom's not even here. He's not my dad. He doesn't have to have anything to do with me, but he's Gramps. He like it just. I'm so fortunate. I'm so blessed
Man,
to
that's
have
great.
so many things. And if I gave any advice to people, like we talked about, like going through struggles or whatever, it's like don't set your bar too high. Nobody's perfect. Like you're going to have bad days and you're going to have good days and you're going to have days where you're not the best Dawn or the best Gary. As long as you're learning from those, you're going to be okay. Like you can get in a pretty dark place when bad things happen. I remember when my mom passed away and then I'd see other people who had family members going through cancer. And then they would like survive. There was a part of me for a second where you go, not that you were upset necessarily, but I think a little bit, but it was more like, well, why couldn't my mom live? like, well, good for you. I mean, that's a horrible thing to think. And, of course, but I think I know I must have thought it when she was right after she died. Or if you have one parent that you think is really great and other parents sort of non-existent, it's like, well, wait a second. Why is she? I could name 5 people that I think don't do as much on this earth than her. Why her? So I think that, or like some days you don't say the right thing, or you do say like to your kid, you don't ask them how their day was or whatever. I don't think we're not like every little thing doesn't have to be perfect. It's that we're kind of guiding ourselves to that right. Because I think people give up if they feel they've failed, but you can't do that. You got to just keep trying. Like I always tell parents in parent conferences when they're upset, like, oh, I'm such a bad parent. And I said, and this is just my own philosophy, but I would say good parents make horrible decisions sometimes, but they're constantly thinking about their kid's well-being and their kid when they're making the decision, even if it's horrible. Whereas a bad parent to me is somebody who makes their decisions without thinking about their kids. Often, like they're like not thinking about them. So yeah, good parents make tons of mistakes. Those are probably the best kind because they learn from them and at least they're trying, right? If you don't make mistakes, you're not trying. So I would say anyone trying to better themselves, don't give up because you're not the person that you want to be right now, today, you're going to be better if you're trying.
Yeah, put that effort in. I know that looking at my own parenting experience, especially with my two daughters, there have been several occasions where I had to very humbly apologize to them because I completely misread what was happening and reacted to it. And that wasn't what was happening at all. And I would feel really bad about that mistake I made. But going to them and humbling myself and talking to them about it, doing something about it, taking some kind of action, just completely cleared it up for them. If I had gone and just hidden myself and isolated myself and felt bad about myself, but never gone to my daughters and spoke about it, that would still be with them. But the fact that I could go and sit down with them and say, look, I totally blew it. I thought this was going on and that wasn't going on at all. And I just jumped in the middle of you and your sister doing this. And that was the wrong thing to do. I'm really sorry. Will you forgive me? And I'm telling you, it has just helped the relationship with me and my daughters so very much, so much so that my teenage daughter, who's about to turn 16, loves, loves, I can't do it now during this COVID stuff, but last year I would go every other week and eat lunch with her in the cafeteria at school with her friends, with her and her friends. And she loved it. And that's such a great honor as a father to be able to go to school with your daughter and she wants you to come and eat lunch with her. It was such a remarkable thing. And I've just continued to push forward, looking at the errors and mistakes I've made, but not identifying them as me. I'm not a mistake. I made a mistake. I'm not a mistake. I tell the
That
same
is
thing to them.
so, that's all right. I always tell, like, when people get mad, or even, it's like, don't call someone a name. Call out the behavior. It's not about them. But I was going to tell you, you said something at our school. We have something called DAWGS, DAWGS, dads of um, amazing kids. I can't even remember what the acronym is now because it's been so long in COVID. They haven't been around, but they come once a week and like go follow their kids through their classes or sit with them at lunch, but it's all about dads.
I love it. Absolutely love it. I never imagined that because I kind of did that with my son, but I'm doing it 10 times as much with my daughters. But they also demand it. They want me to do it. They ask, Dad, are you coming? Of course I'm
It's
coming.
awesome.
I'll drop everything to come.
I don't know that my kids would.
I wasn't like that. When I was in junior high, I loved my parents and I always had a good relationship with them. I would have never wanted one of them to come eat lunch with me at school.
Me neither, ever. My parents, yeah, I like to like watch movies with them, hang out with them, but not at school. I think my mom only came to school once, and it was not for a good reason, but
Yeah, I had a couple of those in grade school, especially. So, wow. Well, Dawn, you've kind of already covered it, but I'll ask a final question and then you can say whatever you want if you got something else you want to share. But
I talk a lot, sorry.
it's no, this is my show, but it's your platform. It's for you to share your story. That's why you're here. Um, Someone who's going through right now the loss of a parent. What would you say to them?
I'd say there's no wrong way to deal with it. There's not a wrong feeling. If you're angry, it's okay. If you're sad, it's okay. If you are compartmentalizing it and putting it aside, because right now you are dealing with kids and you don't want them to grow up thinking that your parent was like miserable every day. Whatever it is that you're doing, it's okay. Like, there is no right or wrong. I think grief is one of those things that I've learned is so different experience for different people. So that's what I would say right there. Don't try to let anyone else or you tell yourself how you should be. There's no should. I almost think the word should in a lot of situations is a really bad word. You should have done this. You should do this. You should, like, I just don't like it anyway. But I think that is what I would tell them, is deal with it themselves. And to, I guess, also assume positive intent. Like, people who do get in your grill, so to speak, about stuff, they probably think they're helping and want to help. So know that as well. And like, don't just don't believe. I guess I'm saying the same thing over again. Just don't believe everything. Like people say, like, it's going to get easier. It's like, no, I'm not going to wake up one day at Christmas and go, oh, I don't even notice that my mom's not here playing with my children. Like, that's not going to happen. It's not going to get easier. You find ways, and like you said, to take that grief and help other people with it, but it's not going to go away. At least, well, actually, I shouldn't say that, because maybe for some people it does. Like I said, everybody's different. But I think that the biggest thing when you lose somebody is that we're already grieving, and then we're starting to beat ourselves up for how we're feeling. And if it's taking too long, or, people like, she should be over this by now, or like whatever, just get help if you're not over it. Seek a counselor or a friend, or do something, as long as you're. But I guess to summarize, there is no right or wrong way to grieve. And so you have to say to yourself, like, what do I need? And then go out and get it. If it's a distraction, that. If it's that you need to make them proud and do something that you think would make them proud, then do that. Like, that's what I did. Like, I wanted everyone to know my mom, and I wanted to make her proud. And I thought, this will make her proud. If I sit home and cry every day and hate everyone who has their parent and complains when, like, oh, my mom's coming to stay with me this weekend. Like, if I do that, that's not going to make her proud at all. So that's what I would suggest.
I think that's wonderful. Well, Dawn, I am just thrilled that you came on to talk to me today. Thrilled to see what's happened in your life over the last 30 something years since we graduated. And
I know.
glad that your story is awesome. It's wonderful. And
well, I hope I see you before the 40th reunion.
Yeah, I may have to actually try to make it up there. I've been up there the last 2 years to see my mom, but I missed the last reunion because I wasn't able to come, but that happens. So what's that, 8 years from now? Something like that? Yeah.
I guess one other thing, like, about the writing, if you don't want to write a book, I think journaling is really good. Although I don't do it. I did it in high school and middle school, and it seemed like I only wrote things down when I was miserable. Because if I'm having a good time, I'm out having a good time. I'm at a friend's house. I'm, going to Ward Lake. I'm doing this. But when I was miserable, then I would write. So if I looked at my diary, it would seem like I had the worst childhood ever, and I was miserably depressed, and only bad things happened to me. And so I thought, ugh. So I stopped writing in journals. But in some aspects, this book is a journal. There's a scene where she's sitting with her mom, and she puts her mom, like, she's talking about the feel of her mom's hand on her cheek. And I remember that feeling, and I wrote it down so I wouldn't forget it. Like, I don't think I ever would. Like, when my mom passed away, it kind of sounds morbid, I actually took her hand and put it on my face, because that was something I always remembered. She'd always put her hands on my face. And so I wrote that in there. Like, I'll never forget that. And so I wanted my daughter to know this stuff too. So in some ways, even though this is a fictitious story, it's in a way a journal, I guess, as well. So journaling would be another thing I would tell people to do to process emotion, because you never know what comes out of it. It just take you places you never knew.
Yeah, I would agree with you. Writing is a fantastic thing. I always struggled with writing, I thought, because I was never able to write well until I discovered I just write differently. It's not about volume. It's about content. I write in little short snippets. And until I started actually putting it together and published a book, I thought I was a horrible writer. I'm not a horrible writer. I just write differently. It's not about about the way you write. Yeah.
Yeah, so many different styles out there, but I didn't even know you wrote a book, so you got to tell me the title. I'll find it. I'll find it. Don't worry.
Yeah, this is promoting your book, so.
No, but that was what I'm trying to say. Like, isn't that what we're saying? Like, promoting everyone is what makes the world a better place. Like, it isn't about me or about you. Like, like, yeah, I feel good if I'm raising you up too. Like, it takes a village, right?
Well, I will tell it's called Pointing to the Light, and it's just about some of my spiritual experiences over the last few years. I published it 2 years ago. I think it was 2 years ago. And some of it's my own thoughts, and some of it are things that just rose within me that to me was so profound. I had to write it down. And I've got one of my dreams I had in there because I've kept a dream journal since 2008. And yeah, it's called Pointing to the Light.
Check it out. So I'm so honored that you asked me to be, this is your project and you asked me to be on it. I can't tell you how much that means to me. So we talked about making people feel, they remember how you made me feel very good. And that is a good thing. And everyone out there, just remember, stop beating yourself up. Just try to be your best self, but nobody's perfect. Like, hopefully that's come out. I don't want anyone to think I like have all the answers or like I mess up all the time. I am a garage sale, but like all over the place. But I think that my students and other people know that at least I'm trying and that like, my heart's in the right place or I want people to feel good. So just don't beat yourself up. Just be your best self and keep trying.
Yeah, your potential is much greater than what you understand today. And you'll never discover that unless you just take a risk and step out and do something that's on your heart. Do it. Talk to the person you want to talk to. Write something down. Go make a video. Start a podcast.
Yeah, good job.
Speak to the world. Do that thing that's been on your heart for a very long time. Go start that hobby you were thinking about doing that you just thought you weren't good enough, and explore that. I tell that to my girls all the time. They want to do something. I'm like, well, let's explore that. Let's look, because you'll find out if you're good about it, good at this. You'll find out if you're not. And if you're not, hey, this was a great learning experience. There's no failure. You're not failing at anything. You're learning something. Then you go on to the next thing. If you keep exploring that, amazing things will happen in your life, and you will come across the most unexpected things that happen within you that you can express to the world that are just absolutely beautiful. Like you writing a book. Who would have thought 30 years ago?
Not me.
Right.
Don't give up on yourselves. And I also, I know I keep saying I'm done. And then I think of something that I want to say. Like, I know that other people, like I said, I was so fortunate. I had parents that supported me no matter what I was doing and made me feel like I could do anything. And so I think sometimes it sounds to say like, oh, you can do this, you could do that, or I just wanted to do it, so I did it. And I know that everyone starts from different places, and some people their whole life have had really a lot of support. And so taking that chance and that leap is easier for them than some people that maybe weren't valued and weren't supported and weren't talked to as if they could do anything that they wanted or whatever. And to those people, don't believe it. Keep trying. And it may be harder for you, and I'll acknowledge that, but you can do it too.
Agreed. Agreed. All right. If you're not encouraged by this, then you're asleep. All right.
And read the books you can read about my wonderful mother, whom I love very much.
Shadow Self by Dawn Shapansky. Get you a copy. I'll put links down when I post this and publish the podcast, and I'll put the video up on YouTube, and I'll put the links to your book, your Facebook page and Instagram down there so people can check you out, find out.
I'm going to put on my Facebook page that I was on a podcast. Is that okay?
Yeah, I'll send you the link if you want to. You can post it on there.
I would definitely do that. I would definitely do that. Yeah.
Well, you've been a great guest. I've really enjoyed this, and we might have to do another one in the future.
We might. And this time, let me know ahead of time. I'll get my yearbook out of the closet. It's actually in that cupboard right back there.
That's kind of scary because I'm sure I might have written something in there and I have no clue.
but you signed mine too. I'm pretty sure of it. So
I probably did. So
well, have a happy holidays, and just remember, you guys, we have so much to be thankful for. You got to find something to be thankful for.
Yeah. Be thankful, live in gratitude. All right, Dawn, you have a good day, and we will talk to you soon.
Okay. Bye. Thank you so much.